Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dadi Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jana Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhupada Astatursa Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Anand Gaura Vaishnavani Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar and Shri Vasudev Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Sanat Radha ki jai. Shri Vrindavanam ki jai. Shri Maya Punardam ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Somaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Go Premanandi. All glorious some devotees. All glorious some devotees. All glorious some devotees. All glorious Shri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, Text 23, 24, and 25. Correct? I think everybody has some device or book. Adhayo Vyadhayas Tasya Sainika Yavanash Chara Bhuto Pasargashu Vaya Prajvaro Dvividho Dvara Adhayo Vyadhayastasya Sanika Yavanascharaha Bhuto Pasargasharaya Prajvaro Dvividho Dvara Adhayo Vyadhayastasya Sainika Yavanascharaha Bhuto Pasargasharaya Prajvaro Dvividho Dvara Adhayo Vyadhayastasya Sainika Yavanascharaha Bhuto Pasargasharaya Prajvaro Dvividho Dvara Adhayo Vyadhayastasya Sainika Yavanascharaha Bhuto Pasargasharaya Prajvaro Dvividho Dvara. Adhayo Vyadhayastasya Sainika Yavanascharaha Bhuto Pasargasharaya Prajvaro Dvividho Dvara. Adhayo Vyadhayastasya Sainika Yavanascharaha Bhuto Pasargasharaya Prajvaro Dvividho. Evam bahu vidhar dukhar daiva buddhatma sambhavai krisyamana satang varsam dehi tama tamo vidaha pranandriya mano dharman atman yasya nirgunaha sete kama lavandyayan mamaham iti karmakrit. Adhaya, disturbances of the mind. Vyadhaya, disturbances of the body or diseases. Tasya, of Yavaneshvaraha. Sainika, soldiers. Yavana, Yavanas. Chara, followers. Bhuta, of living entities. Upasarga, at the time of distress. Ashu, very soon. Maya, very powerful. Prajvara, named Prajvara. Dvivadha, two kinds. Dvara, feeler. Evam, thus. Bhuvadhai, of different varieties. Dukai, by tribulations. Daiva, by providence. Buddha, by other living entities. Atma, by the body and mind. Sambhavai, produced. Krishyamana, subjected to sufferings. Satam, 100. Varsam, years. Dehe, in the body. Dehi, the living entity. Tamavata, covered by material existence. Prana, of life. Indriya, of the senses. Manaha, of the mind. Dharman, characteristics. Atmani, unto the soul. Adyasya, wrongly attributing. Nirguna, although transcendental. Sete, lies down. Kama, of sense enjoyment. Lavan, on fragments. Dhyayan, meditating. Mama, mine. Aham, I. Iti, thus. Karmakrit, the actor. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki. The followers of Yavaneshvara, Yamaraj, are called the soldiers of death, and they are known as the various types of disturbances that pertain to the body and mind. Prajvara represents the two types of fever, extreme heat and extreme cold, typhoid and pneumonia. The living entity lying down within the body is disturbed by many tribulations pertaining to providence, to other living entities, and to his own body and mind. Despite all kinds of tribulations, the living entity is subjected to the necessities of the body, mind, and senses, and suffering from various types of disease, is carried away by many plans due to his lust to enjoy the world. Although transcendental to this material existence, the living entity, out of ignorance, accepts all these material miseries under the pretext of false egoism, I, and mine. In this way he lives for 100 years within this body, if he's lucky. In the Vedas it is stated, Asango yam purushaha. The living entity is actually separate from material existence, for the soul is not material. In Bhagavad Gita it is also said that the living entity is a superior energy, and the material elements, earth, water, fire, air, and so on, are the inferior energy. The material elements are also described as bina, or separated energy. When the internal or superior energy comes in contact with the external energy, it is subjected to so many tribulations. In Bhagavad Gita 2.14, the Lord also says, Matra sparsos tikonteya sitosna sukadugada. Because of the material body, the living entity is subjected to many tribulations brought about by air, water, fire, extreme heat, extreme cold, sunshine, excessive eating, unhealthy food, maladjustments of the three elements of the body, kapha, pitta, and vayu, and so on. The intestines, the throat, the brain, and the other parts of the body are affected by all kinds of diseases, and are so powerful that they become sources of extreme suffering for the living entity. I remember I was on Bhakti Solution one time, and this guy he had somebody was seeing a hole in his throat, and he was putting a cigarette in it, smoking. Yeah. Couldn't believe it. So addicting, his cigarettes, yeah. Lost his throat, but he's still smoking. The living entity, however, is different from all these material elements. The two types of fever described in this verse can be explained in contemporary language as pneumonia and typhoid. When there is an extreme fever in the body, there is typhoid and pneumonia, and they are described as prajvara. There are also other miseries created by other living entities. The state exacts taxes, and there are also many thieves, rogues, and cheaters. Miseries brought about by other living entities are called adibodhika. There are also miseries in the form of famine, pestilence, scarcity, war, earthquakes, pandemics, and so on. These are caused by the demigods or other sources beyond our control. Actually, there are many enemies of the living entities, and these are all described to point out how miserable this material existence is. Sometimes the greatest suffering is caused by those who are closest to us. Yeah. I met a guy just a couple of days ago. He was going to marry this lady. Yeah, been together for a year or so. She just left him. But he was suffering so much. But he got a Bhagavad Gita. So I said, you're not alone. Everybody is suffering. But now this is good, so that it helps you, get a little more serious about your spiritual life. Because he was into spiritual life. He knew the Bhagavad Gita. He was interested. So just see this as a blessing in disguise. I mean, imagine if he would have he was thinking of marrying her. Imagine if he would have married her, and then had children, and then she left. So, count your blessings. It happened earlier rather than later. Knowing the basic misery of material existence, one should be induced to get out of the material clutches and return home back to Godhead. Actually, the living entity is not at all happy in this material body. Prabhupada said that the soul is embarrassed to be in the material body. It's embarrassing. Because what is the nature of the soul? Eternality, knowledge, and bliss. But we're stuck in these bodies that are temporary. So much ignorance and so much unhappiness. So it's an embarrassing situation to be in. Because of the body, he suffers thirst and hunger and is influenced by the mind, by words and anger, by the belly, by the genitals, by the rectum, and so on. Manifold miseries encircle the transcendental living entity simply because he desires to satisfy his senses in this material world. If he simply withdraws from activities of sense gratification and applies his senses in the service of the Lord, all the problems of material existence will immediately diminish. And with the advancement of Krishna consciousness, he will be freed from all tribulation and, after giving up the body, will return home back to Godhead. Haribol. Om Jnanatamandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuram Tamjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Mukham Kroti Vachalam Pangam Nanghaya Tegri Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Vanchakapa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Paditanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the first word in this verse is adhaya, disturbances of the mind. Again, this is coming up. I looked in the Vedabase, and it's the mind is mentioned 29,000 times. 29,000 times in Prabhupada's books and lectures and letters. So it's a big subject, for advancing in spiritual life, we have to control the mind. Unfortunately, most people are controlled by the mind, controlled by the senses. We're supposed to control the mind, control the senses. And what is he called? Goswami. Goswami controls the mind, controls the... What is the person who's controlled by the mind and senses? Godas. Servant of the senses, servant of the mind. So yeah, we're supposed to control the mind, control the senses, just like the example again of the chariot. You know, the chariot gets out of control, the intelligence and the mind and the senses, everything becomes chaotic, and you see the driver's like, kind of scary. But if we engage the senses in the service of Krishna, you know, we see the deity, we get purified. We see the devotees, we get purified. We read the Vedic literatures, we get purified. So using our sight in the service of Krishna, and hearing, we're so fortunate we get to hear Prabhupada's lectures. And imagine if we had the lectures of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or Rupa Goswami, you know, Sanatana Goswami, all the 6 Goswamis, Vyasadeva, Narada Muni. I mean, that would be like, wow. Would be, you know, really, you know, appreciating. So Prabhupada is no less. I mean, he is the one that actually fulfilled the prophecy that this knowledge will be spread throughout the world, every town and village. So Prabhupada, I mean, I wouldn't doubt if all these people that I just mentioned, all these great sages that I just mentioned, were you know, trying to who should speak amongst all of us, they would ask Prabhupada, because he is the one that did it. So we have all these lectures. How many lectures? Like a couple thousand, right? Something like that. So nice, and they don't. It's just like they don't get old. They don't get old. The words of the pure devotee. So to hear the words of the pure devotee, to hear the Vedic literature, this purifies the hearing. And of course, then we smell the flowers. Of course, now we're not smelling flowers too much, except for when you get the garland. And then touching. Of course, when you're a Brahmana, you get to bathe the deities. When I joined, I was living in Miami, and we used to bathe the deities. Before I'd go on book distribution, I would bathe the deities. We put sandalwood oil on them. We massage the deities. So nice, you know. It's so nice activity. You know, massaging the devotees, so the sense of touch in the service of Krishna. So, tasting Krishna Prasadam, it's always a nice transcendental activity. Speaking about Krishna, utilizing the tongue in the service of Krishna. So all these things, this purifies the mind. I got a realization recently about the mind. The mind is a creep. It's a rascal. It's a rascal. It's always, you know, going here and going there. You know, you're reading, you're trying to read, and the mind is off somewhere else. You know, or you're sitting in class, and the mind is somewhere else, or falling asleep in the class. I'm as guilty with that as anybody. But the mind just it doesn't want to surrender. You know, it's such a rascal. So we had to be determined to control the mind. Prabhupada said that the mind is like a baby, like a little 1-year-old baby. The mother has to constantly. None of us had children here, so we don't know the experience. Oh, you have a child. That's right. You have 2 children, a girl and a boy. So the mother has to constantly watch the child. You know, otherwise, you know, who knows what's going to happen. You know. So the mind, you have to constantly watch someone. No, don't go over there. Don't go over there. Don't come back to Krishna. Don't go over there. Yeah. So to keep on bringing it back. From wherever the mind wanders to its flickering, unsteady nature, one must bring it back under the control of the self. And Krishna, he says in the Bhagavad Gita, as a lamp in a windless place does not waver, So the transcendentalist whose mind is fixed on the Supreme Lord does not waver from his meditation on the transcendent self. So it's like we've all seen a flame in a windless place is perfect, just straight up, So, we have to control the mind. Fix it on Krishna. Manmana bhavam madbhakto majhaji mam namaskar. Mame vaishasi satyante pratijane priyosai. From wherever the mind wanders due to flickering and unsteady nature, we must bring it back and bring control of the self. So the problem is the uncontrolled mind. The solution is we have to engage the mind in the service of Krishna. Constantly. Constantly we have to be thinking of Krishna, doing something for Krishna. And eventually the mind will become beautiful, beautiful mind, just like Prabhupada had a beautiful mind. You couldn't tell, can't see the mind. Like there was one devotee saw a picture of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was very grave, and devotee said, Prabhupada, you don't look very happy in this picture. And Prabhupada said, no, that was a time of ecstasy. So you can't see, sometimes you can't see real happiness, or you can't see the mind. And that was the passport picture. That was Prabhupada's passport picture for coming to the West. So, happiness is within. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, he's situated in transcendental position. So the real happiness is within. But everybody in the material world always looking externally. They're looking for, they're going to Disneyland, or they're going on tours, trying to find happiness somewhere else. They're going to the bar, drinking, thinking there's bliss. Like there's that pastime of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. They were going, and they went by one place, and there was a sannyasi there, and oh please come. And they invited him and his girlfriend. Invited him. Sannyasini, I guess. So they were there, and after the talking, sometimes they said, "Oh, you want some bliss?" And Lord Chaitanya said, "What is this bliss?" And Lord Nityananda, he had already been around, so he was Ananda. You want some Ananda? And Lord Nityananda said, "Oh, that means liquor, Lord Chaitanya." So as soon as Lord Chaitanya heard, he jumped up and ran out and jumped into the Ganges. Lord Nityananda followed him. They both jumped into the Ganges. So this is liquor is not bliss. It's not Ananda. It actually makes one's life miserable. But what is bliss, what is Ananda, is surrendering to Krishna. So we have to drive this chariot nicely, engage all the senses, engage the mind in the service of Krishna, and then we'll reach our destination. Nirdeham adyang sulabang sadolabam plavam sukapam guru karadharam mayalako yasanabasavaritam pamang vyajeta vina pashugnat. Is that right? Yeah. So this body is actually, it's a great gift. The body is like a boat that can help us to cross over this vast ocean of material existence. Yeah. The Dehamadyang Sulabang Sudolabam, yeah. Atma, yeah. And I thought there was that at the end, right? Yeah. So the body is like a boat by which you can cross over the ocean of material existence. The ocean is big. Sometimes Prabhupada, or actually in the Vedas, it's given the example of, so if you try to understand the truth through mental speculation, it's like trying to grab the tail of a dog. A dog is crossing the ocean. You think you're going to cross the ocean by grabbing the tail of a dog. Yeah. It's amazing. Dogs, they could swim. Yeah. And they don't have to. We have to be trained, right? We have to be trained. Dogs don't have to be trained. You throw them in the water, they can swim. You throw us in the water, we know how to swim, we're gone. And they just have these little paws, At least we have hands, we could cup the water. I don't know, one of those things, one of the dog's abilities there. But imagine, trying to cross the ocean, you grab the tail of a dog, okay, let's go. Not possible. So the boat is this body, and the spiritual master, he's the captain. So Prabhupada, he's the main captain on this boat. We're all getting, all the gurus in our society, everybody's getting so much guidance from Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. And the favorable winds, except for Dvita, what are the favorable winds? Shastra. Yeah, the Vedas. It's like if you're in the middle of the ocean, you have a boat. Now we're talking about times when there wasn't any engines, just wind. If you're in the middle of the ocean and you have a boat and you got a capable captain, but there's no wind, where are you going to go? You're going to go nowhere. Wind has to be there. Huh? You're just stuck. I mean, I'm sure that happened back in the, there'd be ships out there and no engine, there's no wind, you're just, you're hoping for the wind to come, you're praying, come wind, just sit out there. So we need all three. So we're fortunate that we have all of these things by which we can cross this ocean of material existence. So here in the verse and the purport, it's mentioned that this Adibodhika, Adidaivaka, Adiatmaka. So Adibodhika means miseries coming from other living entities. And there's a lot of that. I mentioned earlier that the greatest pain comes from people that are close to us. I remember I was distributing books in the airport in Los Angeles, and I approached one man. He looked really distraught. He said to me, even if you punch me in the face as hard as you could, you can't make me feel any worse than I do right now. And I thought, whoa, well, what happened? He said, I've been married to my wife for 25 years and she just ran off with another man. And he was so upset. And he was miserable. So close, very close, 25 years, just walk off. Just about a week later, similar things. I approached this man. Again, he's a real distraught. And I said, hey, what happened? You look pretty distraught. My wife, she's from Thailand. She just emptied my bank account and flew out. I'm trying to find her right now. She took all the money, went to Thailand. What can you do? What's we gonna just lost everything. So disturbed. So yeah. Even devotees. I remember there was one in Florida. There was two devotees who were having some little disagreement, and I think actually in the temple room. And one of them just thought anyway. And he went to pay a basis to Prabhupada, and the other one came and kicked him. No, he told me about it. Not in the head. There was one story that he kicked him in the head, but I just spoke to him yesterday just to confirm the story. He kicked him in the rib. Can you imagine that? Like, paying obeisance to Prabhupada, comes over and gives them a kick. No, that was a different one. That was how stories get exaggerated. Well, that was the same story, but it was exaggerated. It wasn't in the head; it was in the side. I just had to confirm it. I spoke to him yesterday. Material world, The mind just gets, anger, Anger, it's this uncontrolled mind, manasa, krodha. So, we have to control the mind, control the senses. It's very difficult to control the mind, as we've all experienced. But when we get a higher taste of Krishna, get a higher taste of service to Krishna, then it's possible. I remember there was a devotee who was There was two devotees. They were chanting japa in the temple room, and one of them fell asleep. You know, it happens sometimes. So the other one, just gave him a little nudge. I wrote, "You're asleep." And the guy that was woke up, he turned on and he punched him. I'm trying to sleep, man. Don't disturb my sleep. So, you got to be careful about who you wake up. So yeah.
Where did he punch him?
Punch him in the arm or something. I don't think he gave him not a heavy, didn't knock him out or anything. But yeah, so we have to control the mind. Other living entities, and just like in this book, Radhanath Swami's book. How many of you read that book? Journey Home. It's an amazing book. He went through some, dangerous times. He was in one city, and it was late at night, and he was walking, and a pack of dogs came at him, and they were gnarly. They were doing, teeth showing and growling, and like 5 or 6 of them, and they were just. A lot of people die from dogs. Dogs kill people. So he was like, he fortunately had a stick. Someone gave him a stick. So he was trying to fight them off, but they weren't backing off, They weren't backing off, so he's like, oh my God, it was a big anxiety. So he's backing up, and then he was able to go into someone's house. But this is India, and he got in the house, and the person, the man of the house, he's ready to attack him too. He just went into his house, without knocking or anything. So he's ready to beat him also. He's like, then, Radhanath Swami, he's just so humble. He just went on his knees, please. Dogs are ready to kill me. I'm just, this saved my life, So he kind of pacified the man. I think they gave him some prasadam and everything, right? Material world. Dangerous place, danger at every step. Other living entities. I was talking to one man who's he was a forest ranger in Brazil. What is that big? Amazon. So I asked him. So what is the most dangerous animal in the Amazon? He said human beings. Most dangerous, killing so many animals there, and trees, thousands of trees. They're knocking them down like every week. It's terrible. And we're killing so many here in America, all over the world. So many cows. Every year, millions of cows are being killed. Yeah, they clear the Amazon to put cattle in there, raise cattle. Yeah, terrible society we're living in throughout the world. Yeah, people don't know what to do, what not to do. Don't know. So therefore, we're distributing these books so that people can learn what to do, what not to do. Anybody know what the most dangerous animal there is in the world? Mosquitoes. Mosquitoes. They kill more than any other living entity. Yeah. Very dangerous. Yeah. Such a small little animal, but they kill so much. So it's dangerous. And then there's miseries coming from our own mind and body. Just like we heard nicely, Devita was speaking about disease. How amongst the birth, death, old age, and disease is the worst. But the mind causes. I don't think there's any disease that's so bad. There are. That's so bad that people want to commit suicide. People have this constant pain. So sometimes, but it's because of the mind mostly that people are suffering so much that they want to commit suicide. Like every year in America, 30 or 40,000. Throughout the world, probably more now. I don't know, maybe 500,000 or so throughout the year, throughout the world, every year. The mind. So our own mind and body are causing so much pain. And then miseries come from nature. So much misery coming from nature. And we don't have it too bad here. Doesn't get too cold. When it gets down to 50 here, 45, it's like, whew, so cold. It's like freezing for us. Well, that's nothing. Now, I've been to Siberia and Russia, and devotees told me that it's so cold there that sometimes if you spit, it's ice before it hits the ground. So cold, can't imagine. But people get used to it. I was there. It was like maybe 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I was on a train and we stopped in one place and this guy's walking around with a T-shirt on. Just like, I couldn't believe it. Yeah. But you know what the Russian tea is there, right? Russian tea, vodka. They call it Russian tea. Vodka. It keeps them warm, They drink a lot of vodka, yes. So cold. The heat. Some places it's so hot. There's a city called Slab City in California. You been there? The reason it's called Slab City is because it used to be an army base, and they moved it, and it's just slabs. There's no electricity. There's no water. It's just people that are, they just have their motorhomes there. There's no police. There's nothing. There's no roads. There's nothing. There's just some people there. I don't know, maybe a few hundred people. Yeah. So, but in the summertime, people. They leave, except for I heard about 50 a day or so. It gets to be like 120 degrees. Yeah. No AC. It's hot. So there's heat, there's cold, there's earthquakes. I remember I was in LA. I think was it 94? We had that big air. 94 or 93, something like that. And it was amazing. This happened, believe it or not, 4:30. We had just paid obeisances to Gaur-Nitai. And all of us were getting ready to pay obeisances to Rukmini Dwarkadis. And then the first thing that startled everybody was one Mataji. She screamed. Because she was up on the balcony and she saw the chandeliers shaking. She screamed. Everybody's like, what's she screaming for? And then of course it started shaking. Myself and a couple other devotees, we jumped up on the altar. I had my hand next to Dwarkadis just in case he moved, but he didn't move at all. None of the deities moved. But since then, Ratnabhushan, he's put metal bars in the back. You have them here also? Yeah, just in case. If there's a big earthquake, they're not going to move. So, but that was like. And everybody else just ran out of the temple room. There was quite a few people died. Yeah, I think it was it was quite a startling experience. Panchagoda was doing the Artik. Gaur-Nitai. Panchagoda, the temple president now in Vrindavan, he was there doing the Artik. Gaur-Nitai, he was visiting there. He'd never been in an earthquake before, so he didn't know what was going on. I had been in earthquakes because I grew up in California, so I had some experience with earthquakes. But yeah, actually the cause of the biggest deaths from natural disturbances, what it is? Rain in China, floods. So many people die from these these floods. Material world. It's not a nice place. So today also is the disappearance day. Oh, we don't have much time. Of Jayadeva Goswami. So he was a very prolific writer. And we chant every morning to Lord Nrsimha, Dasavatar. So he wrote that. And there's one nice pastime. He was writing, and the thought came to mind that Krishna becomes the servant of Radharani. And it just didn't sit right. Krishna is the Supreme Personality. He doesn't become the servant. So he just thought, well, let me think about this. So he told his wife, I'm going to go and bathe, and then I'll come back and take prasad. Went to the Ganges and bathed and put tilak and everything, and came back. And when he came back, his wife was honoring prasadam. He said, Devi, all these years you would always wait for me to take prasad. Then you would take prasad. I'm surprised you're taking prasad. She said, Prabhu, you took prasad. I'm hungry. I didn't take prasad. She said, yeah, you came back. You went, you bathed, you came back, you went into your room. You said you're going to do a little writing, then you came back. You honored prasadam, then you stepped out. Now you're stepping in again. You say you didn't eat. I said, wow. I went into my room. So he went in there in golden letters. Krishna becomes the servant of Radharani. So he's like, oh my God, that was Krishna. So he went into it, told his wife, that wasn't me. That was Krishna. He went and he wrote on my paper there. So that was Krishna, disguised as me. And you served him prasadam. And you're honoring the remnants right now of Krishna, personally. Is there any left? Is there any left? Is there any prasadam left? So, pretty amazing, huh? So this is how Krishna he unexpectedly comes. There's another interesting pastime of how Krishna he unexpectedly comes in. He has these pastimes where he's disguised, just like this. In the Nectar Devotion, there's 6 different types of smiling. There's 6 different types of smiling. Smita, that's a pretty famous one. Hasati, or hasti, hasti. No, it's hasti. Huh? Hasati. Ati hasati. There's different. There's hasati, ati hasati, hasati. Yeah. So there's one interesting one where this hasati, where Abhimanyu was coming. Hasita. So Abhimanyu is coming, and Krishna he goes into the house of Abhimanyu and tells the mother of Abhimanyu, Jatila? Jatila is the mother of Abhimanyu, I think. Jatila. So he says, but he's disguised as Abhimanyu. Krishna's disguised as Abhimanyu. He says, Mata, Krishna, he's coming. He's disguised as me. He's going to try to play some tricks on you. So I just want to let you know. So Abhimanyu is coming, and she comes out and says, I know you're Krishna, you rascal. You get away from me, you're pulling tricks on me. Well, Mama, I'm Abhimanyu, I'm not Krishna. It's okay. So the gopis, they were watching this, and it's described in Nectar Devotion, hasita, that they would show their teeth. Their teeth would show a little. That's hasita. So they were smiling, watching this pastime. And ati hasita, this is the Uttama smile. Or Krishna, he told one girl, Jayati, that Jayati, you're looking so old. Your skin is sagging, and you look like a monkey. And I've heard that the king of the monkeys, Balimukha, he wants to marry you. And she said, "Oh, thank you, Krishna, for informing me about this king of monkeys that wants to marry me. But I've surrendered to you. So I think I'll marry you instead." So all the ladies there, Ati Hasati, that's where they clap, and their shoulders go, and they're smiling like anything. They're clapping. So, any questions or comments? Yes, Davida Prabhu.
It's important that we know how Prabhupada uses the word embarrass. It's on. Hare Krishna, can you hear me? Embarrassed, we know.
Uh-oh, got a problem with the...
Oh, it's this thing. Can someone get it?
No, just get this in here.
Embarrassing microphone.
Hare Krishna. Okay. All right. First thing is embarrass. Embarrass has different meanings, and one we know from our childhood how we get so embarrassed, and to make someone feel confused or foolish in front of other people, like that. But there's another meaning, which is what Prabhupada means when he says the living entity is embarrassed by the body, and that is to hamper the movement of, to impair the activity of, or the function of. That's what he means when the living entity is embarrassed by the material body. Not that, but the body is embarrassing in itself, in other way. But that's what he means. A note on this earthquake. Now I wasn't there, but I heard, and you'll probably confirm this. This little pillar that we've had forever here, made of onyx. This came from L.A. way long ago. When I arrived there, they were doing soon after I arrived, they did a huge renovation of the temple. Cost $100,000, and they put in this onyx siding next on the walls. You remember that? And this is one of the leftovers. We've had that forever since. When that earthquake happened, the devotees, it was just after 4:30, as you say, the devotees were in the middle. But that onyx all came crashing down, and if the devotees had moved, both sides. Yeah, and so if they had already offered if they were offering to Jagannath, they're talking about 60, 70 devotees in there would have been injuries coming. That stuff coming. It's very heavy duties, and so none of the devotees were injured because they were all in the middle, and so it was kind of everyone. Later on, they appreciated that. That's what I heard anyway.
Yeah.
They go up to the ceiling. Yeah.
Well, there's those little balconies.
Right, the balcony.
Up to the balcony.
And very heavy stuff.
They're up about 8 feet.
Yeah.
10 feet.
And it came crashing down,
It probably spanned the whole wall. Right?
Yes, yeah, on either side. Yeah.
There was about maybe 10 on each side.
Whatever, yeah. They framed the pictures. There was a whole. It was very ornate, and and it was. They didn't replace him. Yeah. No. By the time that happened, it would have cost $200,000. It would have cost $200,000 to put that in. Anyway, that was one thing I remember about the earthquake. We had one here, wasn't nearly as bad. Although I think it was that one, but we felt it down here, and it was also swaying. I was upstairs chanting japa. Maybe there's a different one, in '94. Anyway, but I ran out of the temple. You ran on the altar. I ran out of the temple, and I was surfboarding on the sidewalk. I said, "What's going on here?" But there were no injuries down here. It wasn't that bad.
Important, but Lokajit was giving class. Lokajit. He was giving class here, and he doesn't give class much. He's shy and this and that for whatever reason. He doesn't give class, but he's giving class here, and all of a sudden there's an earthquake. And everybody went out of the temple room, and so first time he gave class for a while, and then the last, he didn't want to give class. He said, "Oh, I give a class, and inauspicious thing happened. I'm not going to give class."
it's funny that some devotees didn't go to Mangalartik that morning, and it happened right at 4:30. And of course, they all woke up, and they were thinking, "Oh my God, Krishna's upset with me. I didn't go to Mangalartik." So everybody was at Mangalartik the next day. But they actually brought the deity. We had to put the deities in a bus, because they thought that the building had been damaged. But that was for about a week or so. It was pretty amazing. Okay, Srila Prabhupada, ki? Yeah.